I was sitting on the edge of the examination bed, paper crinkling beneath me, hospital gown barely covering anything. The fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, the air smelled like rubbing alcohol and latex, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I wasn't scared of doctors, not really, but something about this visit felt different. Like I wasn't just here for a checkup. Like something was about to shift. The door creaked open. He walked in, mid-30s maybe, clean-shaven, tall, confident. His name badge read Dr. Pierce, and his voice was calm, too calm. "Logan," he asked. I nodded. "I'm going to take a look now. We'll start with some basic checks, all right?" I swallowed hard, gave a tight smile. I was used to hiding. My whole life had been about avoiding attention, especially down there. I told myself this would be clinical, professional, over in minutes. Just rule out some pain. That's it. He pulled on his gloves and gently asked me to lie back. When he lifted the gown and looked down, everything in the room stopped. His eyes froze. His brows knit together, not with disgust, but confusion. Concern. Surprise. He blinked once. Twice. Then he said it. "Logan, have you ever had surgery, down here?" My mouth went dry. "Yeah," I muttered. "When I was a baby, I think. My mom never talked about it." He didn't say anything for a second. Then he took a slow breath, pulled the gown back over me, and sat down across the room like he needed a moment to process. I stared at him. My heart was pounding now. "Is something wrong?" I finally asked. His eyes met mine. Not in a cold, medical way, but in a way that made me feel vulnerable. Like he saw something even I hadn't. "I'm not trying to scare you," he said gently, "but what I just saw, it's not a standard post-surgery result. There might be something more going on here, Logan." That was the first time I felt it, the fear that maybe I didn't know my own body. That maybe, there was a part of me I hadn't been allowed to understand. And the strangest part? It wasn't just fear I felt looking at him. It was something else too. A pull. I didn't know it yet, but this man, this doctor, was about to rewrite everything I thought I knew about myself. And he wouldn't just heal me? He'd become the one thing I thought I didn't deserve. My name is Logan Reyes. I'm 24. I live in Portland, Oregon, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I had my life figured out, or at least comfortably ignored. I work at a local tech shop downtown, the kind of place where we fix cracked phone screens, install overpriced antivirus software for clueless tourists, and spend hours talking about games and gadgets. My coworkers are nice enough. We joke, we work late, and we all keep our real lives mostly to ourselves. That's how I liked it. My apartment is small, a one-bedroom above a vegan coffee shop that plays jazz all day and smells like cinnamon and soy milk. I've lived there for 3 years. Alone. My life is a pattern: wake up, work, come home, microwave dinner, game until midnight, repeat. Some would call it lonely. I called it quiet. The truth is, I wasn't always like this. In college, I had a boyfriend, Michael. He was my first kiss, my first everything. We kept things low-key, no public hand-holding, no sleepovers unless roommates were gone. I thought it was love. Maybe it was. But when graduation hit, he left. No warning. Just a text, "You're too much for me right now." I never replied. After that, I built walls. No dating. No apps. No real friendships beyond surface level. I told myself it was safer that way. People couldn't hurt what they didn't know. That included my body. Ever since I was a kid, I knew something was different. I had surgery when I was a baby. My mom mentioned it once, vaguely, and then never again. She raised me alone after my dad left, and she was the kind of mom who never liked questions. So I stopped asking. But there were clues. Gym class locker rooms, awkward doctor visits, times I looked at myself in the mirror and felt disconnected. My body didn't feel wrong, exactly. Just, like there was something I wasn't allowed to know. I chalked the pain up to stress. Or posture. Or sleeping weird. But it had been months now, sharp stabs in my lower stomach, sudden cramps, a tightness that made me wince if I moved too fast. I couldn't ignore it anymore. That's when my friend Tyler, who worked at a private clinic as a receptionist, told me to get checked out. "Dude," he said over lunch, "just book the appointment. You don't even need insurance at this place. They'll work with you." I hesitated. I don't know why. Maybe it was fear. Maybe I didn't want to sit on another cold table and have someone judge me with their eyes before they even opened their mouth. But Tyler insisted. "It's a good place." And the doctor? Total professional. Smart. Kind. Trust me. He gave me the number. I saved it in my phone and ignored it for a week. Until one night, the pain got so bad I collapsed in my hallway, clutching my stomach, gasping. I lay on the floor for 5 minutes, my cat freaking out next to me. That night, I called the clinic. The receptionist who picked up was warm, understanding. She offered me a slot for the next afternoon. I almost canceled. Even as I got dressed the next day, anxiety sat in my chest like a stone. What if they found something serious? What if I had to take my clothes off? What if the doctor stared? But I went anyway. The clinic was in a converted townhouse. Brick walls, soft lighting, abstract art in the lobby. Not sterile or intimidating. For once, a doctor's office didn't feel like a punishment. I checked in and sat quietly, scrolling through old texts I never answered, watching the second hand on the clock move too fast and too slow at the same time. Then a voice called out, "Logan Reyes?" That was the first time I saw him, Dr. Adrian Pierce. He wore a navy blue sweater under his white coat, sleeves slightly rolled, a neat beard, and eyes that looked like they saw more than you were ready to share. He smiled, not the forced kind, but genuine. "Come on in," he said, holding the door. That's where it began. Not the exam. Not the medical mystery. But something else. Something I hadn't felt in years. A strange, electric awareness. I didn't know it yet, but walking into that room wasn't just the start of a diagnosis. It was the beginning of a story that would pull apart every lie I'd told myself. About my body. About my past. About love. The exam room was smaller than I expected, warm light, a muted blue wall, not the cold white tile I'd dreaded. There was a small tray of medical tools to the side, a padded chair in the corner, and the standard paper-covered bed in the middle. Dr. Pierce motioned for me to sit while he reviewed my chart on a tablet. "So," he said gently, "Tyler mentioned lower abdominal pain, sharp cramping, and some past surgical history?" "Yeah," I nodded, nervously rubbing my hands together. "It's been getting worse over the last few months." He glanced up. "And this surgery, do you know what it was for?" I shrugged. I was told it was a birth-related complication. My mom never gave much detail. Just something fixed when I was a baby. Dr. Pierce gave a small nod, then smiled, warm, but focused. "All right. We'll keep this as simple and comfortable as possible, okay?" He asked a few routine questions. Allergies. Family medical history. Habits. Lifestyle. I answered quietly, half distracted by the deep, steady sound of his voice. There was something calming about him. No judgment. No rush. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. "I'd like to do a physical check of the area. Just a basic external examination. You can lie back, and I'll give you privacy to get ready. Just cover yourself with the gown, and I'll knock before I come back in. All right?" My stomach clenched. But I nodded. "Okay." He stepped out, and I slowly undressed, heart hammering. I slid onto the exam bed and pulled the gown over myself, fists clenched at my sides. The silence in the room felt too loud. Like it knew I was hiding something, even if I didn't understand what. A soft knock. "Ready?" "Yeah," I said, my voice cracking. He entered, pulled on gloves, and gently walked to my side. "I'll be brief," he said. "Just tell me if anything feels uncomfortable." I closed my eyes as he lifted the edge of the gown. There was a pause, a long one. And when I opened my eyes, I saw it. That look. Not disgust. Not surprise. Not pity. Just confusion. Intense, thoughtful confusion. He gently traced his gloved fingers along a thin scar near my hip, his brows drawing together. Then his hand froze. His eyes locked onto something, a shape, a mark, I couldn't see. He didn't speak for several seconds. Finally, he lowered the gown again and stepped back. "Logan," he said softly, "have you ever had a full medical record pulled from birth?" I shook my head. "No. I mean, it's not something I ever thought about." He sat down in the chair across from me, removing his gloves slowly, his tone still calm but cautious. "There's something here I wasn't expecting. Some indicators that suggest your surgery might not have been as simple as you were told." "What does that mean?" I asked, my mouth going dry. He hesitated. "I want to be careful about assumptions. But what I saw, it might be related to a condition that often gets misdiagnosed or even hidden during infancy." I stared at him. Hidden? Yes. It could involve variations in development, physical differences that aren't always explained clearly to parents. Or, in some cases, intentionally left out of conversations. Especially in the past. Something tightened in my chest. "So, what?" My body's wrong? His eyes shot up, gentle but firm. No. Absolutely not. But it may not fit the standard definitions. And that's not the same thing. I couldn't breathe for a second. My mind raced, trying to catch up. You're saying I'm intersex? He didn't confirm. He didn't deny. He just offered me an anchor. I'm saying we should do some deeper testing before jumping to conclusions. And I'll be here with you every step of the way. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. He stood up again, then paused. Can I tell you something? I nodded. When I was 17, he said, I told my parents I liked boys. My mom didn't speak to me for 2 years. My dad pretended I never said it. But when I started medical school, I promised myself I'd never treat anyone like they were broken, especially for something they didn't choose. He took a breath. You're not broken, Logan. You just might be one of the rare ones. His words wrapped around me like a blanket I didn't know I needed. I wasn't sure why, but I didn't feel embarrassed anymore. I felt seen. Like someone had turned on a light in a room I didn't even know I was standing in. I'll schedule the tests, he added. But only if you're comfortable. I nodded slowly. Yeah. I want to know. He smiled. Good. One step at a time. And as he walked me out of the room, I realized something strange. I came in fearing what someone might see in me. But I left, hoping he'd look again. The next few days were a blur of quiet thoughts and loud questions in my mind. I went to work like nothing had happened. Helped a couple reboot their frozen MacBook. Changed a shattered screen for a teenager who couldn't stop flirting with me, even though I didn't look up once. But in the back of my mind, I wasn't thinking about tech. I was thinking about my body. About that moment on the exam table when Dr. Pierce had looked at me like I wasn't just a chart. Like I was something rare, maybe even worth understanding. The next appointment was scheduled for Friday. More in-depth scans, blood work, a full spectrum of tests. I barely slept the night before. Not because I was scared of the results, but because I didn't know what it meant to start understanding myself this late in life. What if everything I thought I knew about myself was wrong? What if I had to change everything? I showed up 15 minutes early. Sat in the waiting room pretending to scroll on my phone, heart pounding like I was waiting for a date I wasn't sure would show up. When Dr. Pierce walked in, he smiled. Warm, steady. Ready? He asked. I nodded, though my legs felt like jelly. The tests were long, some uncomfortable, some quiet. He talked me through everything gently. Never rushed. Never cold. Hours later, I was sitting in his office, clothes back on, waiting for the results to upload on the screen behind his desk. He walked in with 2 cups of coffee, one black, one with oat milk. I remembered you said dairy messes with your stomach, he said. I blinked. You remembered that? He smiled, handing me the cup. I try to remember the things that matter. He sat across from me, his eyes serious now. Okay, Logan. Here's what we found. He turned the screen toward me, and I stared at a series of scans I didn't understand. You have a condition called ovotesticular disorder of sex development, he said slowly. It means that, during fetal development, your body formed with both ovarian and testicular tissue. It's rare. And complex. But not dangerous. My throat tightened. So, I'm what? Intersex. Yes, he nodded. And it seems your surgery as a baby was to remove or alter some of that anatomy. But whoever did it, didn't explain anything. They erased it, more or less. I stared at the screen. It felt surreal. Like watching someone else's life being explained to me. Your hormone levels, your physical characteristics, they've adapted to a more male-dominant profile. Which is why you never knew. But, your body has its own story. I didn't speak for a full minute. Then I looked up. Why didn't anyone tell me? He didn't answer at first. Then, maybe they thought they were protecting you. Or maybe they didn't understand it themselves. I shook my head. That's not protection. That's erasure. He leaned forward, his voice softer now. You don't owe anyone a perfect body. You don't owe the world easy definitions. You're you, and you're not alone in this. I felt something crack inside me, not a break, but a release. I've always felt different, I whispered. Even when I didn't know why. He nodded. Now you know. And now you get to choose what you want to do with it. For the next hour, we talked. Not just about hormones or options or procedures, but about identity. Trust. How society treats people who don't fit the boxes. He told me stories about patients he'd worked with, friends who'd gone through similar journeys. And then he said something that caught me off guard. Do you ever write Logan? I blinked. Right? He nodded. Your eyes, they hold back a lot. People like that usually write. Or should. I laughed softly. Yeah. I used to. College poetry. Mostly bad. I doubt that, he smiled. There was a silence, not awkward, but full. Then he stood up, walked to the bookshelf behind his desk, and pulled out a small journal. I keep extras, he said, placing it in my hands. Take it. I looked at the blank cover. Why? Because understanding your body is one thing, he said gently. But understanding your heart, that takes time. My fingers brushed his as I took the journal. It was a light touch, but it lingered longer than it should have. That night, I didn't go straight home. I walked around the city, hands in my pockets, thinking about everything, the scans, the words, the way he had looked at me when I said I felt erased. Like he saw every invisible part of me and wasn't afraid to name it. The next morning, I found myself writing again. Not poetry. Just thoughts. About the boy who hid in gym class. The teenager who flinched when someone touched his stomach. The man who sat on an exam table and felt seen for the first time. Over the next week, I went back for a few follow-ups. Nothing major. Just check-ins. But each visit felt less like a patient chart and more like a conversation. We laughed more. Talked about favorite books. Shared stories about awkward teenage moments. And one afternoon, after I mentioned I'd never been on a real date, he paused and said, "Would it be completely inappropriate if I offered to change that?" My heart jumped. I stared at him. You mean like? He nodded, almost shy now. Like dinner. Not as your doctor. As a guy who maybe really likes who you are. I didn't answer right away. Then I smiled. Only if I get to bring the journal you gave me. He laughed. Deal. And just like that, something opened. Something I'd kept locked for too long. Our first date wasn't dramatic. No candlelit rooftop or five-star chef. It was a Wednesday night at a small Italian place tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore, somewhere quiet, cozy, and safe. Adrian, I'd stopped calling him Dr. Pierce by then, was waiting at a corner table when I arrived. He wore a dark green button-down, sleeves rolled again, and when he saw me, his whole face lit up. Not the polite smile he gave in the office. This one was real, and it was for me. We talked for hours. About music. He loved old vinyl jazz records. About travel, I confessed I'd never left Oregon. About food, he thought pineapple on pizza was a crime, and I pretended to be offended, just to watch him laugh. Somewhere between the second glass of wine and a shared plate of tiramisu, I realized I wasn't thinking about my body. I wasn't worried about what I looked like, or what I used to be, or what I still didn't fully understand. I was just there. Present. And it felt good. On the walk back to my apartment, we didn't say much. The night air was cool, and the streetlights cast long shadows on the sidewalk. Our shoulders brushed once, then again, until finally, his hand found mine. It was gentle. Hesitant. Like a question. I answered by squeezing his fingers softly. At my door, he didn't ask to come up. Instead, he leaned close and whispered, "Thank you for tonight." I nodded, unable to speak. Then he kissed me, slow, warm, deliberate. Not like a doctor. Not like a savior. Just a man, asking to be let in. The next few weeks blurred into something strange and beautiful. We tried to keep things low-key. He was still finishing out his contract at the clinic, though he'd handed me off to a new physician the moment we agreed to see each other. Lines mattered to him. Ethics, too. But in private? He was all in. We made pancakes at midnight. Watched bad horror movies under the same blanket. He left little notes in my books. I left coffee in his car before work. It was quiet. It was healing. And it scared the hell out of me. Because I'd spent years hiding. I didn't know how to be loved out in the open. I didn't know if someone like me, someone with scars, questions, and unfinished chapters, could actually be wanted without conditions. But Adrian never flinched. One night, as we lay tangled together in my bed, I traced the freckles on his shoulder and whispered, "Do you ever worry this is too complicated?" He turned his head slowly, meeting my eyes in the dark. "No," he said simply. "Because nothing about you feels complicated to me. It just feels true." I think that was the moment I started to fall, really fall. Not because he said the right thing. But because he meant it. But not everything stayed soft. One evening, I was at his place, a loft apartment with high ceilings and too many plants, when he pulled a letter from his mail pile and froze. "What's that?" I asked. He sighed. "Job offer. New York. Research hospital." Better pay. Big opportunity. My chest went cold. Are you taking it? He didn't answer at first. I don't know, he admitted. I wasn't even going to consider it. But now, with you. With me? I asked, voice quieter than I meant. He set the letter down and walked over, pulling me into his arms. I don't want to go anywhere. But if I stay, I want it to be because we're building something. Not because I'm afraid of change. That night, I stayed awake long after he fell asleep, staring at the ceiling. Change. That word used to terrify me. Now it just confused me. Because for the first time in my life, I had someone, I didn't want to lose. The next morning, I made coffee while he showered. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom, rare. It was short. Saw a charge from a clinic on the old insurance. We need to talk. My breast heaved. He hadn't told her anything. He hadn't told anyone. Adrian walked into the kitchen, towel draped over his shoulder, smile still half asleep. He stared at him, heart pounding, phone trembling in my hand. What is it? He asked. He passed him the phone. I read it, a lips tightening. Then he looked at me. We don't have it todo anything you're not ready for, he said quietly. Betty was tired of hiding. I think he want to tell her, he whispered. He nodded. Then ella be here. However it goes. Later that week, he met my mom at a diner halfway between our houses. She was wearing her usual cardigan and pearls, pretending everything was fine. We talked about traffic. About her dog. About nothing important. Then he told her. About the surgery. The truth. The diagnosis. The man who helped me understand it all. She was quiet for a long time. Stirred her tea without drinking it. Finally, she said, I didn't know how to explain it. The doctors told me you'd be fine if you used, let them fix it. I didn't want you to grow up confused. He felt tears build behind my eyes. He still grew up confused, Mom. She looked up, guilt-edged depth. I'm sorry, Logan. He really thought he was doing the right thing. It wasn't no. But it was something. That night, he called Adrian and told him everything. He just listened. Then he said, you're rewriting your story. Page by page. That's brave as hell. And when he asked, can he come over? He said yes before he even finished the sentence. We spent that night in silence, skin to skin, not needing to say anything. Because the space between us was already filled with understanding. And maybe, even love. It's been 6 months since the day Dr. Pierce, Adrian, showed what I spent most of my life trying to hide. 6 months since he looked at me and didn't flinch. 6 months since someone finally told me the truth. And in that time something in me shifted. Quietly at first. Like water slowly filling a glass. He stopped waking up dreading my reflection. He started opening up, little by little. First to Adrian, then to Tyler, then eventually to myself. Adrian didn't take the New York offer. Instead. Not for me, he insisted. For US. He now works with a local research team focusing on intersex health and gender diverse care. He said he wanted to be where he could make a difference, and I guess it was the beginning of that choice. He started writing again. Real writing. Esas. Letters he never sent. Pieces of myself used to look away in silence. Sometimes he still gets scared. The body dysphoria don't vanish overnight. There are days I wake up and feel like I'm made of puzzle pieces that never quite fit. But on those days, Adrian reminds me, you are not a puzzle to be solved. You are a story to be lived. He told my mom more, slowly. We don't have the perfect relationship, but we talk. And that alone feels like a mountain moved. As for love, it's different now. It's not urgent. It's not desperate. It's calm like morning light that don't need to announce itself. Adrian kisses me before he leaves for work, every single morning. Sometimes he leaves notes next to my laptop. Right like the world is listening. You are more than what was done to you. Dinner tonight, your turn to burn something. We still argue about pineapple on pizza. We still take late walks through the city. And every once in a while, when I'm quiet alone, he takes my hand and says, where did you go? And I tell him, because now, I don't hide. A few weeks ago, I submitted an anonymous op-ed to a national LGBTQI blog. About identity. About silence. About what it means to live inside a body that don't fit and John's narrative, not even your own. They published it. The title was simple. When my doctor looked closer. Adrian read it and didn't say a word for a while. Tene kissed me, hard, and whispered, "You're going to change people." He smiled. "Maybe," he said. "But you already changed me." We celebrated that night. Not with champagne or fireworks. With quiet music. Dim lights. His arms wrapped around me. A journal on my nightstand. Our legs tangled beneath the seats. I don't know what comes next. Maybe someday I speak at the schools. Or write a book. Or maybe I just kept working at the tech shop and writing latte into the night, whispering parts of myself into the pages. But I don't know this. What was once my shame has become my strength. What was once a secret is now my story. And the man who showed it first, didn't run. Instead, sometimes the people who help you aren't the ones who fix what's broken. They're the ones who remind you, you were never broken to begin with. If someone ever looked at you, really looked, and still chose to stay, hold on to them. And if you haven't found that yet, hold on to yourself. Because you are worth knowing. Just as you are.